Now, ordinary people have money in their pockets, they have purchasing power, and they can drive the development of this industry. The next 20 to 30 years will be a super era for the rise of Chinese consumption. I also believe that Pinduoduo will definitely make it in the future. Taobao was an upgrade, and in the end, it will still aim for the sky. Becoming a standard part of everyday life for ordinary people, that's really hard. Of course, it's a very happy experience. This is also a kind of recognition for Jiahua's years of investing in Chinese consumption and supporting national brands. I think this is the ability that the Chinese market, China's capital market, Chinese brands, and Chinese consumers have given to Chinese consumption. So personally, I also say that the next 20 to 30 years will be a golden era to invest in the rise of Chinese consumption. There really isn't a distinction between so-called new consumption and traditional consumption like the media says. In my view, consumption is essentially about delivering good products and services to users. However, because of differences in the ability to observe, understand, and capture market changes, and differences in the ability to master these changes, that's what leads to the distinction between innovative consumption and traditional consumption. How many types of brands are there in total? The first type we call manufacturing brands. The second type is what we refer to as channel-based and retail brands. Then, the third type, which are brands that are able to compete for the advantage of winning over people's hearts, are truly outstanding. They represent the third dimension of branding. To borrow a quote from a former chairman of Coca-Cola, he once said, "Even if all my Coca-Cola factories were burned to the ground, give me 6 months and I could build a brand new Coca-Cola." How many brand owners in the world have that kind of boldness and courage? That's the power of a brand. Of course, there will definitely be pressure, right? As any investor, if you miss out on a good project, you're definitely going to feel pressure. If you didn't, it wouldn't be real. But for me, I don't actually feel that much anxiety, because first of all, I believe there will always be good companies coming along in the future. The best seeds always come last, and that logic definitely holds true. Secondly, I also believe that Jiahua's investment philosophy is different from other companies. We don't chase after trends. We're not after internet-famous brands, and we don't go after whatever's hot at the moment. Since we have our own established investment pace, style, and logic, for example, benchmarking against the world's best, investing in local industry leaders, or firmly supporting Chinese national consumption and helping national brands, what's even more important is deepening the value of the companies we invest in. For the growth of these companies, we aim to build, from this perspective, companies that are responsible in terms of ESG, companies with strong brands, and ideally, companies that have dignity and are respected by others. This was one of my wishes when I founded this company. As for the logic behind monetizing traffic, I believe that every company should master the necessary tools and methods. However, if you rely solely on these tools and methods and only focus on the logic of traffic monetization, you won't get very far. I think for most of us, whether it's shelf-based e-commerce companies, social e-commerce companies, live stream sales models, or platforms like Xiangqian, where influencers promote products, this holds true. A new consumer brand that has emerged, they all face a common problem. Traffic is becoming scarcer, more expensive, and increasingly squeezed, right? After the traffic dividend fades, where should companies go from there? So, even in the Taobao ecosystem, despite having so many entrepreneurs and so many Taobao brands, not a single one has truly made it big. A real big company, a true brand giant. So in my opinion, simply playing the ROI game or focusing on monetizing traffic, these are just technical tactics used during a company's growth, just sales techniques, right? They're just digital sales methods, internet sales strategies, ways to monetize social e-commerce. That's all. They don't make you a truly big company or a major brand. But in the long run, a company's competitiveness is determined by its weakest link. It's about your brand strength, channel strength, product strength, operational management capabilities, production and supply chain capabilities, organizational structure, right? Your understanding of the consumer market and consumer behavior research. Every single one of these matters. All of these actually need to be very strong for you to win in the long-term market competition. So, I have a theory. It's actually very difficult for online companies to transition to offline because online is really just a channel, right? It's just a digital or internet channel. That's all. But for offline companies to transition online, it's actually not as difficult, though it's still hard. The main issue isn't a technical one. It's about mindset and capability. What do new players usually do? They chase trends and try to catch the next big thing, while only the seasoned veterans put in the effort to master the fundamentals. Only companies that focus on mastering the basics can win in the long-term competition of the future market and truly gain the benefits that come with time. The first thing I learned was how to run a company and build a brand, right? From the very beginning, you need to have a clear business philosophy. You have to figure out what kind of company you want to create, what kind of brand you want to establish, and what kind of industry track you want to enter. You need to think all of this through clearly. I think that's really important. After you've thought all that through, then you can start allocating your production factors and resources, then match your productivity with your production relationships, and build your organizational structure. I believe that only by doing this can a company have a future because most new consumer entrepreneurs don't have this kind of strategic planning ability. The second point is that, in addition to having a broad, long-term mindset, looking at your company, your products, and your industry with the end in mind. Many young entrepreneurs and new consumer brand owners are actually just making a small product in a narrow niche and only focusing on simple, functional features. It's really hard to scale up this way. In essence, it's just a business. If you keep running this kind of business for a long time, these young companies just become merchants. But I believe merchants can't become true entrepreneurs. So, the third point I want to make is that for new consumer entrepreneurs, there's another very important thing. Besides choosing a long-term, promising track, the second thing is that you also need to aim to build a big company, a great business, right? You have to truly respect the market and respect your consumers. You need to provide good products and good benefits for consumers. Create consumer surplus. Create value for consumers instead of just focusing on monetizing traffic. I also believe that Pingo will eventually follow the same path as Taobao, moving toward upgrading and ultimately aiming for Tmall. The same goes for VIP Shop today, right? Because that's just how people are. When we talk about the dividends of public sentiment, it's always about things getting better and better. Ordinary people all aspire to a better life. They have that desire, they have that ability, and they deserve to live a better life.